Welcome to the next episode of Green and Growing, a podcast inspired by my dad, Jack Perry, and dedicated to the world of self-improvement in any area of your life that's important to you. Not just what society thinks, but what's going to make your life better. Welcome and join us on this episode.
Wade, I would love to hear a little bit about where'd you grow up? What were some of the early influences in your life?
Boy, Scott, it's been a heck of a ride. It's been a heck of a journey. Highs, lowest lows, and everything in between. And if I go back to some of the things that you and I talked about on what created me, and a lot of it had to do with Jack and Judy and my brother Matt. But if I go all the way back to, say, kindergarten, I'm 5 years old. I'm going to a school that's 10 miles away. I don't really know anybody. And it was right up here in Newport, Harbor Day School. And you had to wear a uniform. And at the time, I hated it. But I look back now on how special it was. But the thing that I remember most vividly about my time there, 9 years, K through 8, I was the smallest kid in school. And in fact, in 8th grade, I think I might have still been the smallest guy in the whole school. And I was teased. I wouldn't say I was bullied, but I was made fun of. And at the time, it was probably a harmless level compared to what you see today in terms of kids being teased and made fun of. But whether you're 5 or 8 or 10, it stings. It hurts. And you're passed over when you're picked on sports teams, whether it's at PE, recess, whatever, just because you're not as big as the other guys, what have you. And it really burned in me. And I became self-conscious about a lot of things. I really wanted to be accepted like any kid does. And, to be continually, let's just say pushed to the fray. It created a fire. It created you and I have known each other for, what is it now? It's got to be 45 years. And I am uber hyper competitive at just about everything. I've learned to temper it a little bit in my older age, but that period of grade school, of being teased and left out, etc., really lit a fire in me. And I remember my dad, Jack, he gave me a plaque that sat on my desk for probably the next 15 years until I went off to college. And it was a quote by Woody Hayes, the legendary football coach at Ohio State. He was a fiery, competitive guy. If you ever knew anything about Woody, he was controversial, but he won a lot because he was competitive. And the quote was this: "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." And it made me believe. Yeah, I read it every day, and not as a homework assignment, but it sat right there in front of me. I couldn't help but read it. And so that really pushed me. It pushed me in the classroom. It pushed me on the sports field. And, I ended up winning a lot in both arenas, and was ready to go to high school, and which was about when you and I met. I think I was about 13 or 14, something like that. Or maybe I was 15 and you were, 12, 11, something like that. And, I was shy. I was timid, and part of that was because of what happened in grade school. And, I remember I came home from school one day and I told my mom, I said, I'm going to run for class president. And my mom said, "Oh, honey, I love you dearly, but that's probably a big mistake," which, well, that just made it even more why I wanted it. And so I ran for class president.
Why did she say it was a big mistake?
Because it was a popularity contest. And I was going to Laguna Beach High School, and I knew 2 people in the entire school.
Was she concerned you were going to be hurt, or was it a protective thing, you think?
Maybe it was just a segment of reality that this is a popularity contest. You only know 2 kids. And I don't think my parents never tried to shelter me or protect me, ever. If anything, my dad learned to swim because his mother, my grandmother, tied a rope around his waist and pushed him into an irrigation ditch in Blythe. That's how he learned to swim. So there was a lot of tough love in the house. And so, that wasn't going to be the case of being protected. but I think it was more the matter. Hey, it's a popularity contest, and you know 2 kids in high school, Eric Tenike and Doug Alston. Those are the only 2 guys I knew from the neighborhood. And so I ran, I won, and which was all of a sudden now my self-esteem started coming, and I started believing in things. And then I went out for the cross-country team, and I made varsity, and I ended up winning the league, set a record in the 3-mile, stood for a couple decades till somebody a lot faster than me. Went out for the tennis team, made the varsity tennis team, won 2 state championships, was runner-up twice. It was and that's when you and I spent a lot of time together. I graduated top 10 in our high school class, got a scholarship in tennis to college. So there was a whole lot of winning in the classroom, outside the classroom. And that competitive fire built a self-esteem that was pretty much impregnable. I mean, you weren't going to beat me. You were, and that's probably why I gravitated towards cross country and tennis, was because they were sports that you didn't have to be big at, and really there's no clock, right? When you're playing tennis, there's no clock. How long you want to go? I'll be out here all night, right? I'll just run. I'll keep running. So that competitive fire was built from being teased and picked on and shut out, and I internalized it, I harnessed it, and I focused it, and it produced a whole lot of awesome stuff. And I'm grateful. Looking back at the time, it was kind of hell. I didn't like being teased. I didn't like being pushed out. But I think about what it fostered inside of me. It was pretty big, and it led to a lot of great stuff.
Well, I can still remember the Woody Hayes quote. You shared the Woody Hayes quote with me probably 100 times in high school, and it got into my head. And so I've repeated it now to my kids.
Seriously?
Yeah, because Nicholas, so I was in a similar situation.
Yeah, you were not a big dude either.
No, I was tiny. And then Nicholas, my son, so I've shared that same thing, and I've shared that quote with him. So I didn't know that I got that from you.
It came from Jack.
That's so funny.
Absolutely.
That's so funny. And so you think that was one of the things that nurtured one of the sort of immense desire as a kid to accomplish it. So what was there an epiphany? Was there a moment you could remember when you were like, I've had it, enough is enough, I'm going the extra mile on everything? Because ever since I remember you were a hyper competitive achiever. That's the earliest memory I have of you.
I can tell you, if I got an A- in school, I was unhinged for a good 24 to 48 hours on an A-. And most kids would have been like, what, I got an A-? And I was distraught. And I was angry. And a lot of this, as I got older, so when in grade school, it was all about, I wouldn't call it a chip on my shoulder. It was a fire in the belly, right? I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to win. I wanted accolades, etc. Well, being the firstborn son, and some things you probably don't know about Jack, you knew that Jack grew up in Blythe, right? California, Arizona, Mexican border. It's about 110 in the shade on Christmas. And he was the valedictorian. He was everything in every sport, every club. And, when I'm 14, 15 years old, I don't realize that Blythe it's a bad place. I mean, the number one employer in Blythe is a prison. Right. It's bad. You know it from when you were doing gypsum, right?
Right.
And so I didn't know that. All I saw were all the newspaper clippings and the scrapbook that his mom had made and his Letterman's jacket. And this guy was everything. Not to mention I'm 14, 15 years old, and he's everything in business. And so now as the firstborn son, I am fighting a new ghost. The first ghost was being, basically teased, picked on, shut out, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm trying to be my dad. And I'm trying to be better than my dad. I wanted his approval. I mean, he was without a doubt my toughest critic. And my grandfather, his father, who was an orphan, both of Jack's parents were orphans, came to California on top of a boxcar, and they lived on a dirt floor in Blythe. They were farmers. And Floyd, my grandfather, told Jack that this country was built on 4 little words. It's never good enough. Do it better. Do it better. And so I took that when I'm looking at Jack, and I'm like, okay, I got to be better than him. And it really, I'll never forget this. I'm probably 10 years old. I'm lying in bed. and I'm crying Niagara Falls, and I'm losing it. My mom comes in, wants to know what's wrong, and I confided in her. I said, Mom, if something happens to Dad, I can't take care of you.
How old were you at this time?
Probably 10.
Wow. And
it was brutal, and I didn't really ever revisit that until decades later. And it now, as I reflect on the question you're asking, was how was I going to be him? And that became a new ghost. That was my new, I got to fight this. I got to be better than him. And I need his adoration. I need his praise. And he was my toughest critic. He was also my biggest cheerleader. He was the first guy to hug me. He was the first guy to pick me up. He was also the first guy to kick my ass back into the ring. And so it was a yin and yang like that. But I could not stop fighting to get where he was, and to exceed that. It was never enough, no matter how much praise he gave me, no matter how proud he was of me. And he always said, I'm proud for you. I'm not proud of you, which was a huge mindset change. But he was kind of the enigma. I needed his approval badly. And that actually is going to play out where I think this conversation is probably going in a minute. But I look back and I think that drove me to some incredible successes in the classroom, on the sports field, et cetera. I mean, it drove me, but it also came at a cost.
Well, so I want to talk about the cost too. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem.
There's three things though that stick out to me. So as a kid, as well as an adult, and I can identify with these or empathize with these. One, you said you got into cross country.
Yeah.
Because there's no clock, which implies you'll outwork somebody.
That's right.
The strategy was just outwork.
Yeah.
Second one was you got into cross country and tennis because you realized size didn't matter.
Right.
It was about hard work. So there was strategy there too, about leaning into the things that you were strong and avoiding things where you think, okay, I can't compete
play to your
there.
Strength.
Play to my strength. And the third thing is you had the quote by Woody Hayes. But you were the king of quotes even back in the day. I mean that in the best way. You had an insight or an idea, even like at a really young age. So that leads to me. The third thing is the personal development side. Did Jack teach you that? Because ever since you were just a little kid, I remember you like this fountain of like inspiration and motivation.
There was. I was very fortunate to. I'd like to say I was maybe one of the luckiest guys on the planet to have Jack as a father for part of that reason. Jack started a company with Vince McGinnis, who I think you might know, Doug Wood, and if I'm not mistaken, Don Olson. And these are four guys that are. This is the 1970s, and they started a company. There was a personal self-development company in the 70s. It was called PACE, P-A-C-E. I can't remember what it stands for. And these four guys collectively were wildly successful financially. They also lost everything. They also built it back up. And these guys were dynamic guys, four of them. Company went bankrupt. Went out of business. The world wasn't ready for the message. Right. But I was force-fed this stuff in my high chair. Okay? I mean, let's think about, the story about the set of The Sale?
I think so. Tell
okay, so we're going to go out here to, let's say, to Newport Harbor.
Yep.
And we're going to get a breeze today of 10, 12, 15 knots.
Yep.
And if you look out, you're probably going to see some sailboats. Right. Are they all going in the same direction?
No.
Some are going down the coast. Some are going up the coast. Some might be going to Catalina. Right?
Right.
Well, how can that be? The wind's only going in one direction, right? The wind is going in one direction, but boats are going in multiple directions.
Right.
It's not the breeze that determines your direction. It's the set of the sail. And you alone are in charge of the set of the sail. Is the sail set to go this way? Is the sail set to go this way? but you're in charge of that. How you take what Mother Nature gives you and harness it and redirect it will determine whether you sail or sink. Make sense? Makes sense. Little things like that they're just unloaded on me on a daily basis. And I mean, I could sit here and riff for about 4 hours and you'd get real tired of it. But yeah, it was poured into me that way. But I found that it was so instrumental in overcoming challenges, whether it was on the tennis court or whether it was in the classroom. All of those isms, those quotes, those sayings, those parables, those stories, they got me through toughest times. When I was really up against the wall or something and I'd think about something on the court, this or that, it got me through. Movies got me through. Our shared love of Rocky got me through. It's harnessing this between your ears is really the magic, because whatever the mind can conceive, the body can achieve. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
And they just roll. And, I think I might have shared with you my lacrosse team. I coached girls lacrosse for about 8 years, and some of my favorite girls in the whole world. And they grinded, and they never really won much. And then we became really world beaters. But Twitter was just starting. And they came to me one day. This is about, I think, 2012, 2014, something like that. And 2016, and they said, "Yeah, Coach, we're going to start a Twitter handle." I'm like, "Really? What the heck's Twitter?" And once they told me, I said, "Well, what's the Twitter handle?" And pardon my French, but the Twitter handle was "shit Wade says," and it was going to be all the different stuff. And so it has been with me forever, but it's also been an incredible catalyst, because at the end of the day, you're not going to always be motivated. Motivation wears off. Discipline is what gets you there. And discipline comes from the talk track in your head. Amazing book by Shad Helmstetter, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. Programming this is everything. Last one. You know a bumblebee can't fly?
Tell me more.
Bumblebees cannot fly. Aerodynamically impossible. Too little wingspan, too much body weight. Can't happen. Defies all the laws of physics. But you know what, Scott? Nobody told the bumblebee that, right? So how you program this, you can get past anything. If you want it, if you need it, if you really got to have it, you can do that. But if you think you're going to do it just on motivation alone, you got to keep pouring in. It's like a shower, wears off. That's why you take one every day.
Well, so it seems like the hard work, leaning into your strengths, the constant pouring into new ideas and personal development has been clearly a catalyst for all kinds of achievement when you were younger and now as an adult. You mentioned that there's also a price.
Yeah. Came at a big cost.
Tell me about the price.
So if you think about it, when you win, you work really hard for something. Study for a test. It's a big tennis match. It's a whatever it is, a big deal in business. And you're questioning yourself, you're reworking it, and you're strategizing, and then you're grinding, and then you win. How do you feel?
Fantastic.
Endorphin rush like no other, right?
Right.
It would probably make heroin, meth, and crack combined look like nothing. And so what do you want?
More of it.
You want more of it. And when do you want it?
Now.
Right? I need another hit. I need another dopamine hit. So winning begets winning. Well, pretty soon, when you're that age, especially if you're in an individual sport, team sports are awesome because you have to learn to rely on each other. You got to work together as a unit. But as an individual, and I know you know this from your days in tennis, it's just you. You're all alone. And you can't blame your offensive lineman. You can't blame your point guard, right? It's just you, and everybody's watching. Well, what happens is you become a perfectionist. It's never good enough. I won, I got to win again. Oh, I won 6-1, 6-1, not good enough. It's got to be 6-0, 6-0. And it starts to manifest itself and feed on itself where nothing's good enough.
Do you remember a specific time when that occurred where it just stopped working? I guess specific time in high school or in college.
I don't know that there was a specific moment when it stopped working. I will relate a story from some football guys that put some color on this, but I can tell you where it went in a quick moment to my demise. And I remember the story of Brett Favre when he won the Super Bowl. And he was from southern Mississippi and this no-name school and worked his way up, went to the Packers, this and that, wins the Super Bowl. And he was depressed because he held the trophy and he thought, that's it? I thought it was going to be something better. It's just deflating because you built it up in your mind to be this summit that you have to get, and then it's not what you thought it was. And so, yes, the dopamine is not as significant as time goes by, and you have to keep chasing it and you get more of it. But that perfectionism started to really become, I knew, well, and this is the thing about being a perfectionist. Everybody thinks, oh, you're a perfectionist, therefore you're good at everything. And I'm going to tell you that being a perfectionist actually means that you spend 99% of the time in failure because you're human. You're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. So you're always dealing with disappointment. Could have been better. Should have been better. It's not enough. Well, I graduated from high school, as I mentioned. I was in the top 10 of our class. Got a scholarship to play tennis in college. And, I'd been a 4-year varsity letterman in a lot of things. And then I get to college. And guess what? Everybody there was me. There was 1,000 of me. Well, now all of a sudden you're not top 10. You're middle of the pack. You're mediocre. And you're not winning. And I'll never forget my first semester of college. I got 2 C's, 2 D's, and an F.
Had a jacket Judy like that.
Well, funny story. I'd never beaten my dad in pool, ever. He grew up, basically he had to hustle pool in Blythe to make a nickel. And I'd never beaten my dad on the pool table. I came home my freshman year and I ran the table not once but twice. And because they only gave me like $100 a month to, for food money, this and that. If I wanted a beer, I needed to win a game of pool. So he just put the cue on the table and says, well, I can't wait to see your grades, son. Walked away and I went, oh man, did I blow that one. And he wanted to yank me out of school. And my mom, God bless her, said he'll figure it out. And I did. But what happened was self-sabotage, imposter syndrome. And you start to doubt yourself. You're used to winning. And all of a sudden, you're 4 states away. You don't have your support network.
It was Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's cold. It's gray. And, everything that is your environment of winning and success is gone. And now the competition level is sky high. And all of a sudden, little boo-boos became injuries that meant I couldn't play, or I'd be out late with friends and wasn't studying, and a whole lot of avoidance behavior, because if I don't compete, if I don't get in the game, well then no fault of mine that I didn't win. I didn't lose. I didn't play.
You didn't compete.
How could I lose if I didn't compete? It's a self-sabotage, and it happens to people a lot that are high achievers, and it's debilitating. And all of a sudden now you are, I wouldn't say you're circling the drain, but you get to a place where you have to find other ways to escape and not be accountable. And I muscled through to get my degree, and I told my kids, I said, if you do it wrong in college, I'm going to know, because I did it wrong. And I'd goof off all semester, and then I'd go and I'd live in the library for 3 weeks, and I'd pass all my classes. And it was a dumb way to go. And I'd like to say I don't have any regrets in my life, Scott, because I wouldn't be where I am. But there are things that I'm not proud of, and that's one of them. That's one of the things that I look back and, God, if I could do it again, I would do it so differently in terms of, I wouldn't do it differently in terms of where I went to school, but boy, I would have gone to class.
Well,
and So I self-sabotaged, and I drove myself into relative failure.
Then at what point do you turn that around? So it sounds like the self-sabotage, the avoidance behavior, all that I totally get. Right. You can't lose if you don't compete.
Correct.
So when did you start figuring that out?
Okay. Now I get out of college and it's time to go to work. Well, now I go to work for Jack. And
Perry Morris.
Yes. And we're in the equipment finance business. And
I worked for Perry Morris.
Yes.
For summer.
And guess what? I was back in the environment that was fostering success. I was in the environment where the guy that I most wanted to impress, guess what? Are you familiar with the rabbit in running? So in a dog track, they have a fake rabbit that goes around the track, and the dogs want to chase it.
Right.
So now I had something to chase. I now had a new North Star to beat, and that was to get back to achieving so that Jack was proud of me.
Right.
Incredible how the environment that we're in
100%.
can either enhance your path to success or take you totally off path. So now I'm working at Perry Morris, and that we drive, and we move up through the ranks. I know we addressed this on a prior episode of Green and Growing. And we talked about how the industry imploded, and we went on to work on Wall Street. Well, so I go to work for Payne Weber, and I achieved some success there. I moved to Denver, go to work for Merrill Lynch. Well, now Jack is working for a company called Wood Logan. It's a financial wholesaling services company. And I come to the realization that I really belong public speaking. I've always enjoyed it. And I said, all right. And I moved from the retail side of financial services to the wholesale side of financial services in a company where my dad happened to work. And he wasn't my boss. He wasn't involved in hiring, none of that. I had to, earn my way in and whatnot. But again, now I got my ghost next to me that I'm chasing, that I'm trying to impress, that I want him to be proud of me, etc. And he was a legendary public speaker.
Your pop.
Oh boy. Yeah. You've seen him speak.
He's the best.
He is a force of dynamic. It's. I look back at watching him and some of the stuff he would do. He actually entered an arena, if you will, a ballroom. There's probably a couple thousand people there, and he's delivering the keynote speech. And he comes in dressed as Rocky. You would have loved it. You would have absolutely loved it. I had the Tigers playing the whole bit. So trying to live up again to his public speaking level was another, I got to go there. And so I'm back in the groove, et cetera. That then ends, and I have my first epiphany, and that is with my brother. And my brother and I are having a moment. My daughter is 8, and she's leaving notes in my suitcase. Daddy, when are you coming home? And because at this time, I'm flying 88 airplanes a year. I'm gone 200 nights away from my family. And it was easy when my daughter was 2, she's in diapers, or she's, it wasn't somebody I could play with. Mm-hmm. So now she's 8, she's leaving me notes. And this becomes a big weight. It's weighing on me. I've got some guilt. I'm missing them more and more. And I'm having a talk with my brother. This is in 2006, excuse me. And my brother says, when are you going to get out of that airplane? And I said to him, well, Matt, do you know how much money I make? And Matt, typical brother, fighting match, he says, oh, that's cute, Wade, but do you know how much money I make? And now it becomes a pissing match. And he says, well, you're already selling real estate. I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, tell me what you do. I said, well, I'm on a stage in front of 500 people every other weekend. I've got 10 appointments a day during the week. I'm flying all the time. And I sell a product. It's a variable annuity. I had a prospectus. It's 168 pages of legalese. It's usually between $100,000 and $2 million investment, and it's for retirement. And he says, you're selling real estate. I said, how do you figure? He says, well, I only have 48 pages of legal. And it's somewhere between say 500,000 and a couple million, but it involves a loan, not cash, and it's for a very emotional investment. It's a home instead of retirement. You're selling real estate. And if you can do this on a stage in front of 500 people, well, you could absolutely be amazing in somebody's living room, helping them with the most important thing in their life. And now I'm starting to piece it together. The ultimate epiphany of where I am today started there. And it was, okay, I am really here to lift up, boost, improve, enhance the lives of everybody around me. Whether I was coaching girls lacrosse, coaching boys football, wholesaling to help people with their retirement, etc. But I came to the realization that real estate was so much more personal and emotional that it was an automatic. I was drawn to it. I said, this is the way that I get to spend every night with my family. This is the way that I can move on and not be on the road when I'm 50. And so that was an epiphany. It's like, great, I'm going to be my business owner. I'm going to be my own guy. I'm not working for a big company, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was 2007. And I don't know if you remember the real estate market in 2007, but we were entering into the worst real estate market since the Great Depression. And the first year in business, and Lori had been in real estate for a couple of years prior to that. So I knew that I didn't want to be a wholesaler the rest of my life. This just kind of happened that, great, I can exit. And I looked around the industry and I saw people that appeared to be incredibly successful. They drove a nice car. They lived in a nice neighborhood. They dressed nicely. I'm thinking, okay, if that person can do it, let me at it. Because this is an industry that is, my success is determined by my work ethic and my attitude. Mm-hmm. The two things that I had when I was playing tennis, the two things that I had when I was in cross country, the thing that I had when I was wholesaling, they were in my control. And I looked around the world of real estate and I'm like, are you kidding me? Let me at it. I got this. Scott, the first year I made $24,000.
Crushed it.
That was for the year.
Right. No, I'm joking.
Here's the problem. I spent $25,000 on marketing. And I can remember my son, he's playing hockey. He's a goalie. It's a damn good goalie. Mm-hmm. And we're at a tournament in Colorado Springs. And I am literally handing my visa to the lady for his entry fee. And I am thinking to myself, God, please let this go through. Please don't decline me. My son's got to play it. I'm literally worried my credit card's going to not go because we're spending a ton of money on getting this business off the ground. The market is absolutely horrific. And I'm now about to face my son that you can't play today. I don't have the money. I'm sorry. And that was when I came to the realization that real estate doesn't get easier, you get better. And we basically rolled up our sleeves, went back at it, doubled our income every year, and the rest was history after that. Let's fast forward to another epiphany moment. Because I explained to you before we started, there are multiples. And that was awesome. And I became a managing broker, and I was recruiting and coaching agents. I had the #1 recruiting class every year for 5 straight years while I was a managing broker. My 12 recruits would outperform the 40 at another office. And I'm really, really proud of it because many of those agents are still today making multiple 6 figures. And it was absolutely some of the best times of my life with those young agents and teaching them how to build a business, how to do this and how not to do that. Well, then, as you know, July of last year, Jack died. And at first I knew it was coming. I mean, his health was deteriorating and it was time. It absolutely dropped me to my knees when it happened. But being the firstborn and being the guy that had to take care of all the details, and you've been through this, you understand how it goes. I had a big to-do list, and that masked a lot of the emotion, right? I mean, I had my mom leaning on me. I had my brother counting on me. I had my family counting on me to make arrangements and make financial decisions, and we're doing this, and how do we take care of the life insurance, and how do we clean up bank accounts and iPhones and all these things. So I was really, really busy and distracted from everything. Then the service came, and you were there, and that was wonderful. A couple months later, it's now October, and everything's done. The life insurance done, the estate's work is done, everything's buttoned up, which to get it done in about 8 to 10 weeks is lightning fast. I was proud of that. And then I was lost. Then this guy who never told me what to do, never told me where to go, but he always had his hand with me on the rudder. He was always a sage, somebody I could lean into, somebody that I could count on, as a sounding board. And even though I made all the decisions, good ones and bad ones, it's different when he's not there. It's almost like you jumped out and the parachute's gone. Like, oh boy. And I wouldn't say I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I've been selling real estate for 17 years at a high level. Very successful. Retirement's on track. And I'm just kind of playing with my head about, do I just sell everything because I'm not feeling juiced? I'm not feeling the fire. Do I just sell everything and retire and call it a day and enjoy the sunset? And this went on for a few weeks. And it was troubling because it's the first time in my life, Scott, that I didn't have a calling. I didn't have something that was burning. I didn't have a war to fight. I didn't have a boogeyman to go after. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, and I don't know what the spark was, but this moment hit me. And the moment was, what am I doing when I feel juiced? What am I feeling? What am I doing when my hair's on fire, my endorphins are popping, and 6 hours goes by in a matter of 5 minutes? Because that's living, right? In the words of Matthew McConaughey, Living, that's living. That's when you are absolutely immersed, right? And you have a mission, you have a passion, you are alive at the highest level. And it dawned on me. The times in my life when I was most alive was when I was pouring in to other people. Whether it was watching you on the court and I'm firing you up because you're in a match, or whether it was when I took on a girls lacrosse team, whether it was I was coaching boys football, and both of those endeavors involved getting young people to accept and believe that they were capable of something so much bigger than they ever thought they could, that they could 10x and not 2x, and pouring in and not letting them lower the standards and holding them accountable and pushing them, and then watching them lift trophies and cry in each other's arms over winning this and that. And then it came to realtors, and I was coaching realtors who didn't know how to spell real estate, and a year later they're making 100, and 2 years later they're making 200, and now they've got businesses, and watching them grow and thrive, that's what got me juiced. And that's when I said, okay, I'm not retiring. God did not put me on this planet to achieve something and walk away. There's so much that I have to give that Jack poured into me, whether it's the isms, the discipline, the character, the integrity, the pride, all of that. He just kept pouring it in, and it's in here. And I said, you know what? Shame on me for holding this back. Shame on me for not wanting to share this with anybody that wants a taste. And I get it. The Kool-Aid I'm pouring is not for everybody. I can tell you right now, when I took over the real estate office that I was running in Cherry Creek, I told the president of the state, okay, I told Chris, I said, Chris, I can tell you in the next 3 months, we're going to lose a third of the office. Because either I'm going to fire them or they're just not going to like my brand of Kool-Aid. But then we're going to go out and we're going to hire, grow, develop, and inspire people that do like this Kool-Aid. And we ended up in our first year having the single best 1 year improvement in EBITDA in the history of Coldwell Banker. And it doesn't mean that it's all magic. I mean, a lot of this stuff has been around for centuries, but it's a matter of committing and pouring into people that helps them believe they're capable of something more. And, I'll never forget when one of the guys that I hired, coached, trained, developed, bought his first house and came to me and showed me the keys and cried and hugged me. And it's one of the best days ever. So I've come to this place, and this is why the epiphany, the ultimate epiphany, is that I now know what I am here to do for the next 20 years. I now know what the calling is, and everything that I've had up to this point, the little epiphanies, have all led to me being in this place, prepared to give back, pour in for anybody that wants a big cup. And I do say that if somebody wants to come and drink from this fire hose, it is a fire hose. It's I like to say that it's like getting a drink of water from a fire hose with a Dixie cup, right? It's just coming at you. And but if somebody wants this, I'm giving it to them, and it's free, but it also comes with accountability. You don't get just to dip your toe in. You want a piece of this? I'll give you all of it. And I love doing every minute of it. I know it kind of drives my wife a little nuts because I get kind of maniacal, but I just can't help myself. Just can't help. I mean, it's like when we were off camera before this, and poor Lauren, I just meet her, and now I'm just pouring in book titles and giving her summaries, and she didn't ask for this, but I just can't help it. And so that's the epiphany. The epiphany is knowing what I'm here to do for the rest of the way.
Well, you just helped me connect a bunch of dots too. I've got 6 core Wade things, and interestingly enough, they're 6 core Jack things. Hard work, right?
Nothing replaces it.
2, play to strengths, lead into the strengths. 3rd, personal development, constantly pouring into yourself so you can give to other people. Seeking out environments that foster your highest callings, your highest endeavors. 5th, having a North Star. Interestingly enough, it sounded like your dad was a big North Star for you, and then you found the real North Star that he was all about, which was pouring into other people.
And I probably the only thing I wish was maybe different was that I realized that earlier. I wish I knew that earlier, but I wasn't ready earlier.
Well, I got to share this. With you.
Sure.
So I don't know where they were, but my mom and my dad were talking about your dad one night, and I guess they'd gone to a play.
Okay, sounds about right.
And they were up in L.A., nice play, and some guy behind your dad, your mom, and my dad had an issue. And so Jack and him started talking, and I'll never forget. I'm gonna see if I can tie this together. My mom said, this guy didn't know what to do with Jack because you don't know whether it's a put on because his personality's so big, and she goes, you could tell he didn't know whether it was a put on. He didn't know how to take Jack. Right. But when you know Jack, you love Jack, and you know that it's 100%. It's a fire hose. It's genuine. It's 1,000% genuine. And I remember. And then it all came out, and it was fine. Yeah. It was fine. And your dad and him barely had words, and your dad, the ultimate peacemaker, just made it all fine. But I remember my sister said the same thing about you sometime around high school or college.
Oh dear.
Because I remember you were coming out with me with something. No, you were coming out with me with something, and I didn't want to be accountable. And it was the Wade fire hose. It was just this fucking fire hose. And I was stepping off. I think I was smoking cigarettes at the time, and you were just riding me about this. And I fucking hated it. And my sister said, Wade's Wade. Wade's Wade, but he's genuine. He's saying it because he cares, and he's got one gear, and that's Wade. And so it's funny. I think there's a lot of that. Like, I love what you said about the Kool-Aid. Not everybody wants that accountable Kool-Aid. Not everybody wants that. But I think at the core of it is something I admire, I respect, and it's made a big difference in my life. And I've seen the connection between in high school and today is that pouring into other people. That's the common thing. Your dad did that with me personally. You did that with me personally. And I still remember to this day when I was playing tennis in high school in a tough match, you could hear Wade six courts coming away and firing everybody up, and the energy would go from 5 to 11 when Wade got there and would fire everybody up. And man, it made such a big difference.
Well, thank you.
It made such a big difference. So that's something I remember.
It's the interesting thing about pouring in that most people don't realize is that when you pour into somebody else, it's actually your cup that gets full. If you're doing it right and you're given to give, you're not given for yourself, you come away with a full cup and they come away with a full cup. It's fun. It's fun.
And that's one of the things I would imagine drives you for your EXP.
Absolutely.
What does EXP stand for?
It doesn't.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
It doesn't.
It's just EXP.
Yeah, exactly.
EXP. And so at EXP, you can now use some of the talents to pour into some of the other brokers.
Correct.
And support them.
Yeah. I think that EXP, before I became part of this family, and I do mean family, and I can tell you I've been part of a lot of sports teams. You and I both alums of USC. That is people call it a family, and it's a family. And until you're part of the USC family, you don't understand it. It's tight. So I understand what a family looks like. I understand what it feels like for people to give of themselves and collaborate without any expectation coming back. And EXP likes to talk about being the most agent-centric brokerage on earth. And on the surface, in the beginning, Scott, I felt like it was lip service, like great tagline, but at the end of the day, really, it's just a brokerage. No. And I'm going to give you one quick example. All right, so let's take a big national real estate company. I'm not going to name any names. There are many of them, and there are many good ones, all right? I'd like to say there are no bad ones. It's kind of like when I say that there's no one best school, but there is a best school for your child. So one child may thrive in this school but struggle in this school, and vice versa. Same thing in real estate. Not every agent is going to thrive in the EXP environment. Not every agent's going to thrive in the big national brand environment. It kind of depends on, like I said earlier, the environment around you is going to have a big impact on whether you succeed. So a big national brand, you're going to have a headquarters that's going to be, say, in New Jersey or New York or Chicago. Then you're going to have regional offices, and you're going to have a regional manager that he probably covers 4 or 5 states, right? And he's going to have a staff and an office. And then you're going to have a state level president, and he's going to have a staff and some office. And then you're going to have brokerage offices throughout the state, and they're going to have a managing broker and copiers and office space and a receptionist. You kind of get the feel of where this is going. And then you have the agent. And the agent's out there. He's the worker ant, right? He's out there doing all the work. He's grinding this and that. And he's going to give somewhere between 20 and 50% of his paycheck to feed each of those levels. For some agents, they love the idea of having that name brand. And that's okay. If an agent feels that they need to have XYZ on their business card and that's their secret sauce, good for you. But at the end of the day, the buyer or seller you're meeting with is not hiring the company. They're hiring you, the agent. But a lot of agents don't see it that way. They think they need a crutch. They need that name behind them. Just because you're part of the Yankees doesn't mean that you're going to win a World Series or be the MVP, right? So the thing with EXP is there are no offices. It's all cloud-based, 100%. There's one corporate office, and then everybody works remotely. All of the systems are cloud-based. They have every major tool that exists at the big national brands. From, I could go into a long, long laundry list, but every single tool that you'll find at a big national brand that people pay 20 to 50% of their paycheck for, you'll find it at EXP. And you can get it at EXP for less money because they don't have to pay rent. They don't have offices. They don't have receptionists. They don't have those people. Everybody works remotely, and it's all cloud-based. We have a cloud place called The World that you can go in virtually. You get a question answered in a matter of a couple minutes. You don't have to drive to the office or leave a message for your managing broker, and you're going to wait, a day, 2 days, 3 days to get an answer back. You go into The World virtually on your laptop, on your iPad, on your iPhone. You'll have an answer in a matter of minutes. And you could actually be waiting for, 5 minutes doing something else. Incredibly time efficient from that respect. Collaboration. EXP last year in 2023 gave $233 million. Hold on, let me do that again. $233 million back to their agents. $233 million. 50% of their revenue goes back to the agent in the form of either company stock or compensation as a bonus. 50%. And that is the mandate in their policy. So when you think about collaboration, that company, EXP, is putting their money where their mouth is. So I, as a realtor, am compensated by helping you, another realtor. Most big brokerages, doesn't work that way. I know because I was there. I've got a secret. I've got a magic bullet. I've got some phrasing, some clause, some tool, whatever it is. Scotty. Oh, sure, I'll help you. This place, because when EXP thrives, when EXP does exceptionally well, who wins? The shareholders. Who are the shareholders? The agents. The agents own something like 90% of the company. So it's in their best interest to share every great idea they have. It's absolutely, and so when you say agent-centric, they're putting their money where their mouth is. And every agent pours into each other. It's really, for me, it is a perfect place for me to take what I'm trying to do with the next 20 years of my life in pouring into other agents and helping them create businesses that then they have the ability to retire. All right. One of the fallacies of real estate is people say, oh my God, you make so much money. The average realtor in America, Scott, makes $28,500. Sells 3 houses a year, makes $28,000. That's the average realtor. They have no retirement plan. They have no health care benefits. And you're all on your own. And you pay all your own expenses.
And they're paying 50% commission back too.
Well, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 20, somewhere in between. But one of the beauties of EXP is that they provide health care. Did you guys get that? It's a big one. The first year alone at EXP, my family saved $16,000 just in health care costs. Because I won't go into all the details, but between my premium and my deductible, it was a $16,000 net benefit to my family. Tremendous. No other real estate company that I know of provides health insurance. Retirement planning. They give you the ability to take part of your commission check and buy company stock at a 10% discount. When you hit certain benchmarks, they give you stock. When you hit other certain benchmarks, they give you cash. I don't know. I like cash. You get where I'm going?
Yep.
They are truly taking real estate used to look like this at the top of the pyramid where you had the corporate office and here are all the realtors. And all they did is they flipped it upside down. And the people at the bottom will tell you they work for the agents. And so I have found that EXP has provided me with the ability to create the business, or I should say, put my existing business on steroids, and at the same time give me the platform to be able to pour into and help younger agents or newer agents or even older agents that are struggling break through plateaus, find new ways, create multiple sources of income. Usually in real estate, the realtor has one source of income. I get to eat what I kill. I'm going to go sell a house, I get to eat. I sell a house, I get to eat. Not at EXP. I've got income from selling houses. I've got income from stock when I hit certain benchmarks. I've got income when they send me cash from certain benchmarks. I then think about the money that I'm saving with healthcare. All of this feeds in. And then there are tools that allow me, for instance, they've got an arm called Bundle Select, where let's say we have an agent in Washington who basically she is the realtor for Salesforce.com. Mm-hmm. So you work for Salesforce, let's say, Scott, and you log into your benefits platform to look at your 401k, or you look at your health, your health benefits. Well, at Salesforce, they also have real estate benefit. And there's a picture of an EXP agent, and anybody that works for Salesforce, they can click on that, connect with that realtor, and that realtor will either help them buy a house in their local area or refer them to another agent. But that agent is now going to reap the benefits of being the realtor, the go-to guy for Salesforce. Talk about an incredible way, another source of income to build your business. It's a remarkable company.
Hidden fees. Let's talk about some of the hidden fees that realtors aren't aware of.
Boy, there's an old saying, and this is probably the one thing that I really like to drive home to agents. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. I'm going to say it again. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So you could say, I sold $30 million in real estate and I made $700,000. Okay, how much did you keep? Because if you gave 20%, or let's say at that level, you're probably giving 20%, and instead of 700, well, there's 140 that's gone. They might have a desk fee. I know of one company that charges $1,500 a month. Whether you sell a house or not, there's $18,000 right off the top. You need errors and omissions insurance. That's to protect you. That's probably another $500 a year. Sometimes there's a transaction fee. That could be $250 to $300 a year, or per transaction, excuse me. There could be a technology fee. There could be, you could have to pay for copies at your office. The little things just keep adding up. And then you've got dues to the Colorado Association of Realtors, dues to the National Association of Realtors. There's probably dues to your local board. And so
it's like death of 1,000 cuts.
A death by 1,000 cuts is exactly right. And so what I really want to drill into people is pay attention to where every nickel goes, and is every nickel actually working for you? And the problem that I had, or to say the wake-up call, mini epiphany, was going to EXP being completely cloud-based, is that no longer was I out there grinding 7 days a week so that I could help pay the salary for somebody sitting in a cubicle in New Jersey who has zero impact on my business. Kills me. Whereas at EXP, I sell a certain amount. So it's an 80-20 split. So I give 20% to the company, but it's capped. Once I sell about 2.8 million, the company gets their cap of 16,000. When I hit certain benchmarks after that, the company gives me stock back. And so the way I like to put it succinctly is, instead of being at a big national company where I'm paying them to be part of their brand, EXP actually pays me to be part of their brand. Whole different way to look at it. So death by 1,000 cuts is a good way to look at it. And I think most agents, they come into a big company, they like the idea of a big name brand, they feel like it's going to do something for them. And if you're brand new in the business, yeah, maybe you're going to get some good training, but usually those offices have somewhere between 75 and sometimes 350, 400 agents.
Well, I like what you said about there's no best school necessarily. There's the best school for your daughter, for your son, or for you. A realtor, what characteristics does that realtor have for you to be able to say unequivocally, now that realtor is going to thrive at EXP. That realtor, not so much.
Right. Okay. So the number one thing I would tell somebody that is considering a major national brand, a flat fee company, or somebody that's cloud-based that wants to give you money back like EXP. When you're brand new, you could do okay at all of them. You could. Kind of depends who you are as a person, like the question you're asking. if you're somebody that is an entrepreneur, you want to own your business, you want to create a brand, that's the other thing about EXP. My sign in front of a house, it doesn't say Remax, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, Keller Williams. It says Perry Properties Group. It does say EXP on the sign in another spot, but what that means is when people drive down the street and they see my sign, those people are also getting my mail. And when they get my mail or they see my social media and it's all branded to Perry Properties Group, it's consistent branding. For 15 years, I would be branding Perry Properties Group on social media. I'd be branding it in the mail to 2,000 homes around me, but my sign didn't say Perry Properties Group. It said XYZ company or whatever company I was at. And so you had an inconsistent brand message. The entrepreneur will absolutely take off into the stratosphere at EXP because they give you all the tools, but you get to brand yourself. You get to brand your business, and you think like a business owner. And the best part is all the agents that are thriving at EXP that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, guess what? They branded themselves. And it's a big, big difference. If you are, let's say that you just aren't a business owner. You just don't want to be an entrepreneur. You want to sell this and that. Maybe you'd be better off at a flat fee company. If you're somebody that likes going to a sales meeting with 30 or 40 people and having donuts by the cooler and having coffee and kibitzing around, maybe you should be at a big national brand because they meet every Wednesday for about 3 hours. And the funny thing is not one of them's going to buy or sell a house from each other, but they collaborate ideas, and it's a good place for someone to be if that's what you need. If you need to be in a room with 30 people having donuts talking real estate every Wednesday, then you should go to a big national brand, and they've got great tools, and they're long-standing 100-year-old companies for a reason. They're good companies. But if you want to run your show, if you want to run your business your way, if you want a company that is going to pay you to be there instead of you paying them, then EXP is that place. I like to say that the secret sauce, Scott, when I was running an office and I would interview 20 agents a month, I'd hire one. And I would tell them that. I'm only going to hire one. It might be you, might not be. And I had 13 questions that I would take them through. I won't bore you with all of them now, but some of them just simply, hey, what do you love about real estate? What do you not like about real estate? What are you good at? What makes you good? What's your weakness? It's always funny when you ask people what their weakness is, and I really don't have any. Okay, next.
I work too hard and I'm too smart.
Yeah, I work too hard and I'm too smart. But two that some of the questions that really drove it home, tell me about the hardest thing you ever had to do. And I got some great answers. I got some people that just opened up and just poured out their emotions. Tell me, by the way, this is a great question. If you're interviewing in any other industry and you're going for an interview, be prepared to answer this. What did you do to prepare for today's appointment? Usually the answer was, well, I looked up the address. I'm like, one person said, well, I know that you and Lori live in Littleton. I know that you have a farm down there. You sold, 22 homes last year, and you have a son that plays football. I'm like, okay, you moving to the top of the list, prepared. And I'd take them through these, and then I would ask them two last things. One was I would ask them if they ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning.
Viktor Frankl.
Mm-hmm. You've read it.
Of course.
It's harrowing.
Twice.
Would you agree?
3 times.
Yeah, it's harrowing. Maybe 1 out of 100 had read it, and I'd have to paraphrase it that if you've got a big enough why, you can live with any how. Right. Because this is a 7-day-a-week job. Because let's face it, Scott, let me ask you. You and Masha are going to sell your house. And let's say that my brother's your realtor because I live in Colorado. And you've got a question. When do you want Matt to be available?
Yeah.
Right
Now.
then.
Yeah.
5 minutes ago. I can't wait because you're not sleeping until you get that question answered. Does it matter if it's 8 o'clock on a Sunday? No.
Right.
So it's an everyday thing. As a result, I would also ask people, what sport did you play in high school? Because I always hired athletes. Athletes understand defeat. They understand practice. They understand rehearsing your scripts. They understand working when you're tired. They understand, being there for your teammate, which is your client. And they translate almost perfectly. But the last thing that I would take them through, you had to be, well, let's just say this. The ideal realtor pays. It's an acronym. PAYS.
Oh, I think you were going to say pace like in your dad's company.
No. Pays. PAYS.
Okay.
Number one, a great realtor is poor. They have to go to work. As a result, they're driven, but they're poor. They can't be born to a silver spoon, live a posh life. They're a secondary income. If they never sell a house, it doesn't matter. Now, don't get me wrong. There are realtors who make a lot of money, and they're worth every penny because they bust their ass to help 30, 40, 50 people. One of the agents that I coached for years sells between 50 and 80 houses a year. She's an absolute machine. She has a pacemaker, and I like to joke with her that I can't keep up with her because she'll never die. It's like competing with Iron Man. So you don't have to be poor, but you have to have that mindset that I got to go. I got to go to work. They got to be athletes because athletes understand hard work, discipline, integrity, getting beat up and getting back up, knock down 8, get up 9. The why, they got to be young. I don't mean by age, but it's a technology business. It is now a high-tech business. You've got to be able to, this was 15 years ago, I'd ask people, if I gave you an Excel file, could you convert it to a CSV and could you upload it to a cloud-based application? And I could tell by the way they answered the question whether or not they were BSing me. You'd be like, oh, yeah. I'm like, no, you can't. No, you can't. So they got to have tech skills. And the last is smart, S. They got to be smart because, quite frankly, Scott, I can't fix stupid. I can't. And so I took them through 13 questions. And if they have that, and all 13 were designed to look inside at the DNA and say, are you a worker? Or are you just here because you think that I'm going to make a lot of money and this is going to be great? And there's no limit to my income. There's no ceiling. Guess what, Scott? There's no floor either. So that's the guy that I'm looking for. The guy who's got a big why. He needs to achieve this because he wants to send his kids to college, or he really wants to retire his spouse, or he wants to take up my, mantle of I want to pour in and help other people. Whatever it is. Those are the people that I think are ideal for a place like EXP.